Could I get into it? No. Do not believe a single thing that you read on any single page. Like, you are in it. You are in the trauma. What was I in the mood for this month, honestly? Why do I kind of like this character when he is so awful? Like, I cannot see a way out for this character. Like, and it was heartbreaking. It was awful, but it was real. So to say that this turned out to be a 6-star read for me, there was a point in the book where actually I was going to DNF it. And the reason for that is because hello my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chanel, and in 2026 I thought I would do this thing where I pick up the camera and start making videos about books and reading and all the bookish content. So if you like reading vlogs, if you like readathons, if you like cozy bookish days, then I would love if you could subscribe and stick around. If you haven't already guessed by the title, today's video is my February reading wrap up, and as you can see, I had a phenomenal reading month. Like, to say that I started the year in a huge reading slump. I literally read like 3 books in January. Like, it was such a struggle. I was like, that's it, my reading journey is over. Like, I'm never going to be able to pick up a book ever again. To then like getting the ball rolling at the end of January, and I think I managed to read like 3 books in the last week of January, to then like full on entering my reading flow state in February and reading 10 books. And spoiler alert, there were some bangers that I cannot wait to discuss with you today. So grab a drink, let's get comfy, and let's get into today's video.
Hello, Ramona. I can't shake the simplest feeling beyond the ghost. We stand on the opposite shore. Hello, Ramona. I reach through mysterious ceilings, my only hope. I look for the things I don't know.
I've made myself a salted caramel iced latte, but the Ninja machine makes like the most beautiful, like silkiest cold foam. It honestly tastes like a coffee that you would get from like the coffee shop. Like, it's so good. So the first book that I read was A Fate So Dark and Delicate, and I read this on my Kindle. This is the 4th book in the Compelling Fate saga. Now, I absolutely devoured this series. My sister-in-law, who literally gives like the best book recommendations, recommended that I read it in like October last year. I immediately picked it up, as I do with all her book recommendations, and I just devoured like the first 3 books like one after the other. So I was so excited when this book came out. It actually got released in like December, and I downloaded it on the 17th of December, like ready to read it, but I had like loads of like Christmas reads that I needed to get through, and I tried to kind of start it, but it just didn't feel like the right time. So I came into the new year and I was like, the first book that I need to finish is A Fate So Dark and Delicate. Could I get into it? No, I really couldn't. I really struggled. In February I was like, right, that's it, I need to finish this book. And I kind of chipped away at it in January, and I finished it literally on like the 1st of February. Now, my thoughts and feelings about this book, like, I am quite conflicted, which I'm really sad about, because like I said, I devoured the first 3 books in this series. Like, I was just kind of like expecting to absolutely love this book, and like, reading slump aside, it just didn't meet my expectations. I feel like we kind of ended up in the same place that we ended book 3. It's hard to describe, like, a lot happened in this book, almost like too much. And the first 3 books, like, I was so invested in the love story, like between the main female character and the main male character, which I won't say the name because that would be a bit of a spoiler, because it is like a little bit of a love triangle in the first like 1 or 2 books. I was so invested in their love story, and I guess like by the end of the book, like, I still was. And then we get like a second couple in like the 3rd book who I absolutely adore. Like, I loved their storyline. By the end of the 4th book, all the side characters were like coupled up. Like, it was very instant love, and I feel like I just couldn't be invested in all these like subplot romances. It just felt like a lot happened, but then not really, but then we kind of ended up doing a full 360 and being exactly where we started in the beginning. So it just fell a little bit flat for me. That being said, I still rated it a 3-star, which is like still a really good rating. I would 100% recommend like the whole of this series. I just felt like it probably could have been a trilogy and probably would have been more impactful as a trilogy. Overall though, I would still 100% recommend the series. After that, I picked up Beautiful Venom by Rena Kent. I just needed something that wasn't like fantasy or romantasy, just a little bit of a palette cleanser. And I tend to be picking up quite a lot of Rena Kent's books for like in between fantasies. I initially picked this up because it's a hockey romance, and back in December 2025, like most people, I became completely obsessed with Heated Rivalry. That was my first hockey romance, and since then, like, hockey has literally been my like favourite sport. So I decided to pick this one up because I was in the mood for a dark romance, but I was like, it's hockey. Like, I love hockey now. So we picked this one up. I ended up rating this 3 stars. Like, I thought it was a really good read. And like a 3-star rating for a dark romance for me is like a really good rating. Like, I don't think I've ever rated like a dark romance 5 stars. Actually, that was a lie. I rated Insatiable, the whole trilogy, like 5 stars. I love that one. But yeah, like 3 stars is still a really good rating. I did really like these characters. Like, to say it's a dark romance and there is some like really dark topics and themes explored in this book, their romance was kind of cute. Like, there were parts of it where I was like, you two are really cute. There was definitely like some like romantic parts in this, which made a difference, because normally, like, well, all the dark romance books that I've picked up so far have been like, you know, those typical dark romances where the guy's like a complete psychopath and has no feelings. I'm currently in the middle of the Legacy of God series, and then I've started this one. So I need to kind of look into like the Rena Kent universe, because I do really like her writing style, and I am definitely entering my dark romance era. I've just looked through like all of the books that I've read this month and realised like a lot of them are really dark. After reading Beautiful Venom, I then decided to pick up Release Intent by Chloe Walsh. I have had this on my TBR for a little while. I finished Taming 7 a good couple of months ago, and after hearing the mixed reviews on this book, like I kind of like hesitated and was deciding to kind of pick it up at the right time. I don't think there's ever a right time to read this book. Honestly, I don't want to say too much about it, because every time I think about this book, I literally cry. But this is a continuation of the Boys of Tommen series, and this book is centered around Lizzie and Hugh. And Chloe Walsh explores a lot of dark themes and topics within all of the Boys of Tommen series, but this one is definitely the heaviest. Most of the themes, to be fair, that she explores in this book are heartbreaking. I'm like trying not to cry just thinking about this book. Like, it left me in a state for about a week after reading this where I couldn't stop crying. I just could not stop crying. I was an absolute emotional wreck after this book, which of course meant that it was 5 stars. And I found this so hard to rate, because I can't sit here and say like I really enjoyed this book. Like, I didn't. But I did. Like, I feel like there was a lot of criticism around the detail that Chloe Walsh went into with some of the really, really uncomfortable, dark, difficult scenes in this book. If you've read it, you will know. And some people kind of have said that they feel like she should have had more of like a fade to black moment. And I think on reflection, like in the moment, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like I'm actually like reading this. But having reflected on it, like, unfortunately, this is a lot of people's real experiences. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, like, it's so sad, but for a lot of people reading this book, they will feel really seen. And the fact that she writes about them in the detail that she does, I think makes this book even more impactful than it already is. She also explores quite heavily the topic of mental health, in particular bipolar disorder. Now, someone who works within a mental health setting as part of my 9 to 5, like, I loved that she represented a disorder that I think is very much misunderstood. She explores like real experiences of someone with bipolar disorder in this book, and it was heartbreaking, it was awful, but it was real. And I think probably that's why some people probably felt a little bit uncomfortable reading this, but the experiences in this book and the way that she writes about them are real. And I think that can make us feel a little bit uncomfortable to think that the experiences that some of the characters went through in this book are some things that people live with every single day. I think about this book all the time. I mean, I think about the whole of the Boys of Tommen series all the time. So it had to be a 5-star read for me. But yeah, like I said, like, After reading this book, I was like an emotional wreck. It was tough. So if you are thinking about picking up Release in 10, just make sure you read the trigger warnings and really read them, not like me who just skimmed them and was like, yes, fine. Really read them so you understand what you're going into, and just take regular breaks, even though it's really hard to take regular breaks because I literally binged this because I couldn't stop reading. But yeah, make sure you kind of look after your own mental health when you are reading a book that is as heavy as this one. So after Release in 10, you can imagine I just needed something light and fluffy. I needed to pick something up quick that I could quickly get into before I ended up in like a huge reading slump again. So I ended up picking up Mile High. Now the Windy City series has been on my TBR since I first got back into reading in 2023. Like once I got onto Book Talk and I saw everybody's Billy bookcases where they had all of the Chestnut Springs series and all of the Windy City series, like I went to the Works, which for anyone who doesn't know is like a really cheap bookstore in the UK. And I did the thing that we all do when we get back into reading, and that is buy every single book in every single series before we even know if we're going to like the series. And the Windy City series was one of them that I was like, yeah, it's been on the TBR since 2023. It's probably about time that I kind of find out what the hype is about. So I ended up reading Mile High. I didn't go in with huge expectations because I've actually heard that people have skipped this one completely because it's not as good as the rest of them. So I kind of went in with lowish expectations, but I really enjoyed this. I actually rated it 3 stars. In this book we follow a hockey player and we follow an air hostess who is working on the airline that takes the players around to like the different cities when they're playing different games. And at first, like, I was like, I do not like the main male character. Like, he is so arrogant and so full of himself. But as we kind of get to know him through the story, like, it makes sense why he is the way that he is. It explores a lot of themes with the characters, such as difficulty with like parents and upbringing, perfectionism. The book also explores things like weight stigma and weight bias. This is my first book of Liz Tomfordy's and I really enjoyed her writing style. It was easy to get into. I thought the pacing of the book was good. It was exactly what I needed in terms of like a fun, fluffy, little bit spicy romance, and the spice I would say is like well written. I am a person that like, I can give or take with spice. I like a little bit of spice, like don't get me wrong. It was well written. It didn't like cringe me out or anything like that. And actually I ended up loving the couple by the end of it. I definitely will be continuing the series. I think I have The Right Move downloaded as an audiobook and ready to go, so I'm excited for that. The next book that I read was Fallen Stars by Imani Eriu. Now I literally bought this on release day and it took me so long to get around to reading it. Now I rated Heavenly Bodies 5 stars, and reflecting and looking back, I probably didn't love it as much as I thought I loved it at the time. If you were to ask me like what my favourite romances are, like Heavenly Bodies wouldn't automatically be there. So yeah, I did rate it a 5 star, but I probably would say that it was more of like a 4 to a 4.5 star. Fallen Stars is the second book in the Heavenly Bodies series and it kind of continues and picks right up from where we left in Heavenly Bodies. I can't really say too much about this book because I don't want to give any spoilers away. I did end up rating it 3.5 stars and I think there's a couple of reasons why. One, I have decided to be a little bit more harsh with my ratings in 2026. I looked back at my Goodreads from 2025 and I was just handing out 5 stars and I was like, you know what, I need to be a little bit more critical with my reviews. I also listened to the audiobook for this one and I have a thing about English narrators. Like I do not know what it is. Obviously I am English, but when it comes to English narrators, especially like male English narrators, like they can make or break it for me. And I actually had to stop listening to the audiobook so that I didn't fully like give up on this. I think it's a really good continuation and a good setup for the next book. Like there are a few developments that happen in here that have got me really excited for the third book, so I will be continuing it definitely. I think this series in a whole, like I want to love it more than I actually do love it. But with saying that, like it is a good read and I would still recommend it. It's just not like one of my absolute favourites. Next I picked up Air of Illusion by Madeline Taylor. This is a romance that I picked up like back end of last year and again just didn't get around to reading in like November, December time. It is a dark romantasy about a fey assassin who has the power of illusion and is sworn to like this awful king. And then we have our main male character who is actually a Grim Reaper and they end up forming an alliance as they are looking for the same artifact, and this artifact essentially is what is going to a free ivy from the king. Fawn, the main male character, also has his own motive for wanting this artifact, so they kind of are working together, but really they start off really not liking each other. And it is classed as like a darker romantasy because there are some darker themes and topics of like some of the experiences of the main characters that they have like been through and that they are going through that are explored within this book. So I definitely check out the trigger warnings. This to me was like giving classic romantasy. We have enemies to lovers, we have like touch her and die. It's a slow burn, like a slow burn. And we have like a morally grey MMC who is also a shadow daddy. So it was just giving like those classic romantasy vibes, and I absolutely ate this up. I was really surprised with this one, and I ended up rating it 4 stars. So the next book that I picked up was Souls in Ruin. Now, I do not know how to describe this book. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this book. So Souls in Ruin is a dark fantasy, and it was indie published. I think it's now being picked up for trad publishing, which I'm so excited because I want to kind of hear like everyone's thoughts on this book. So in this book we're following a princess who, she's not treated like a princess. She was born out of wedlock and is very like ill-treated by her family and by other people also in her realm. And her dad arranges for her to marry a king from like a different realm. Now we learn about this king in the first couple of chapters, and he is cold and horrible, and the things that we hear, I'm like, this is not going to end well. So she's wed to this king from this other realm in hopes that it will form an allegiance and help to strengthen the power of the realm. That was kind of her dad's intentions. However, when we meet this cold king, like, I was a bit like, are they being serious? Like, are those lies? Like, is he actually that cold? Like, because he didn't come across like that. However, one thing I will tell you about this book is do not believe a single thing that you read on any single page. The amount of twists and turns and plot twists, like my head, like from the get-go was like, my mind was blown. Like, I have not read a book that took me on such a journey like this one has in a really long time. I could not have guessed the trajectory of this book. Like, I could not have guessed where we would have ended up. Like, the twists and turns in this book, I still think about this book every single day, and I cannot get over like how gaslit I felt throughout this whole book. Anyway, not all is as it seems, and things definitely do get worse for the princess. A lot worse, like a lot worse, and we kind of follow that journey. I mean, that doesn't give you much to go off. You need to go into this book blind, because I had the best experience with like knowing very little about what was in this book. I ended up rating this book 5 stars. The moment I finished this book, I was like, 5 stars. Even on reflection, I'm like, is this god tier? Like, is this a 6-star read for me? Probably. This is classed as a dark fantasy, and unlike Air of Illusion, which is like a dark romantasy where a lot of like the trauma is spoke about being in the past, or it's very like fade to black, this is like, you are in it, you are in the trauma. So I would read the trigger warnings before you go into it. I feel like I've said read the trigger warnings for absolutely every single book that I have read this month. What was I in the mood for this month, honestly? So to say that this turned out to be a 6-star read for me, there was a point in the book where actually I was going to DNF it. And the reason for that is because we stay in a part of the story for quite a long time. Or to me, it felt like a long time, like a big proportion of this book is set in the same place, and it kind of doesn't go anywhere. Now looking back, this was completely intentionally done by the author, because I'd got to a point where I'd lost all hope. I was like, this is not going to be resolved. Like, I cannot see a way out for this character. Like, I really can't. Like, I don't know how she's going to get out of this. And I was just like, I can't read anymore. I am so in this story, but I have given up all hope that anything is going to get better at this point. And I remember saying to my husband, right, I'm going to give it another hour. I'm going to read for another hour. And if we are still suffering the way that we are suffering right now, I'm going to have to DNF it because my mental health cannot take it. And lo and behold, I was just at the turning point. And from that moment, from around 60%, I binged the whole book. Everything that I needed to do that day went out of the window, and I was sat and I binged the whole book. The turns, the gaslighting. Why do I kind of like this character when he is so awful? Honestly, all I can say is please go and read it and experience it for yourself. I don't think it will be for everyone. It's really dark, so like I said, do read your trigger warnings. I can't wait for book 2. And I've just had a look at the description for Souls in Ruin, and it says, for readers who love myth-drenched romance, morally dark men, like, yeah, morally dark, not grey, dark, and heroines who rise from the ruin. I gave up. I honestly, like, I don't know how she keeps going, but I was like, I'm ready to give up right now. This book ends on a cliffhanger. Just a warning, and also please check your trigger warnings. The next book that I read was A Touch of Golden Madness by K.L. Devore. Now this book is set in a post-apocalyptic society where we have 2 magical species, the elementals and the kinetics. And we are following an assassin princess who is the daughter of the kinetic king, who, by the way, is like the most awful like villain. Like, all the villains in this story are true villains. Like, I despise them. And she is tasked to kill the prince of the elementals, who also happens to be the person that killed the love of her life. So she is out for vengeance. And the story starts out with like a bit of a cat and mouse situation. And then we are given plot twist after plot twist. So it never felt predictable. Like, it always kept me guessing as to what was going to happen. There was tension and banter and so much drama. This is a dark fantasy romantasy, so like both of the main characters are really flawed and have a lot of trauma that we unpack throughout their stories, and it's dual POV as well, so we really get to understand their stories from both of their perspectives. I don't really want to say much more because the blinder you go into this book the better, because the plot twists just like really do keep you on your toes. I ended up rating this book 4.5 stars. It was so close to a 5-star read. This is a dark fantasy, so again, like, please check your trigger warnings because there are some really dark and heavy themes that are explored within this book. I really enjoyed it, and there is a cliffhanger at the end that just had me like, I need to read the second book like right now. The next book that I read, obviously off the back of A Touch of Golden Madness, had to be The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow. Now this is the prequel to A Touch of Golden Madness, and I very nearly decided to miss this and jump straight to the second book because after I finished A Touch of Golden Madness, like the cliffhanger, like I just needed to know what happened next. And I was literally reading the author's note on the second book in the series, and the author like highly recommended that for the most impactful read and to really learn about characters that pop up in the second book. She like highly suggested that you read the prequel. I was like, okay, I'll go back and read the prequel. And I'm so glad that I did because this book for me was 5 stars. We learned so much about the events that happened leading up to the end of A Touch of Golden Madness, and it was heartbreaking. It was darker than the first book because we're not just hearing about the traumas that some of these characters have gone through, like we are now actually living them. So I do think that this book is definitely darker than the first one. It was heartbreaking. At points I felt like physically sick, and we go through so much pain with these characters, but I absolutely loved it. Now after reading all those dark fantasies, I needed a break. I needed light and fluffy and fun. So I picked up Wildcard by Elsie Silver. This is book number 4 in the Rosehill series, and we are following a ray of sunshine, Gwen, and a grumpy fire pilot who is also Gwen's ex-boyfriend's dad, which makes for a really sticky situation that just adds so much tension and angst to this story. I do actually think this is one of my favourites in the Rosehill series, and I think it's because like I really did feel the emotional connection between the 2 main characters in this book, which I think some of the other books in the Rosehill series were kind of lacking. In this book we get age gap, we get forced proximity, there's just a lot of tension and a lot of yearning and a sense of like a forbidden romance, in a sense that like, I mean, it's her ex-boyfriend's dad. Like, she's not still with her ex-boyfriend, but it's kind of like it's his dad. Overall, like, with every single Elsie Silver book, she creates books that are just so bingeable, so fast-paced, so fun. We also get to see more of a side character who we kind of see in a couple of the other books here and there. We get more of him in this, and he is fantastic. He is so funny, and he just adds to the banter in this book. Like, yeah, it was so good. I rated this 4 stars. And that's all the 10 books that I read in February. February was an unintentional, like, dark month. Like, a lot of the books that I read had really, like, dark and heavy themes. So I clearly was looking for pain in February, and I definitely got that. But I also got 3 5-star reads, which, yeah, it was a good month. If you have got to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to consider subscribing and sticking around for more. But until then, I will see you in the next one.